Hey, people of the Beanie Pipes, I'm Mr. Spork, and these are Mr. Spork's Hands. Red beans and rice, a classic peasant dish from New Orleans. If you were hungry and broke and living in the bayou, this is how you fed yourself, with possibly some alligator hunting and catfishing in between. But it has become a dish loved by any economic strata because it is absolutely delicious. Curiously enough, red beans and rice is not the first iteration of beans and rice together found on the world recipe circuit. You see beans and rice evolve all over the place. You've got gallo pinto down in Central America. You've got Hoppin' John farther up north in America. You've got bean and rice dishes all over India. You've got bean and rice cakes in China. Beans and rice together just make a fabulous meal, complete proteins and all that other sort of nutritional value, but I think mainly is that it tastes great. If you're going to make red beans and rice, you got to have red beans. Anybody that watches my channel or reads my website know I am an absolute nut for cooking beans from dry. Yes, you could use canned, but you know what? I'm going to tell you why you don't want to. This is all you have to do the night before. There, I'm done. That's it. That's just plain old tap water, even though I was pouring it out of my tea kettle. It's cold. This is it. You're done. That's it. Go walk away. You'll make red beans and rice tomorrow. What happens when you cover the beans with about 4 times their volume? They will soak up slowly. Don't use the quick soak method you see on the back of the package where it says to boil them and then let them sit. You never get as good a texture out of them. Don't bother with pressure cooking. Don't bother with Instapot cooking them. I like cold cooked beans just that much better from a texture perspective. So this is done. This is ready to go. Why else do you want to do this? Well, of course, we're going to talk about money. If you lay out your hard-earned cash and somebody says, all right, well, I'm going to give you $1 for that or 1 apple for that. Well, you know, okay, fine, I'll take it because I'm hungry, right? Well, guess what? If you cook from dry, you don't get 1, you get 2. You don't get 2, you get 3. You don't get 3, you get 4. And in fact, most places you actually get 5, but I didn't have 5 apples laying around the house today. So 1/5 the price if you cook from dry. All you got to do is think ahead the night before with cold water, and you're done. A lot of choices to make as we get farther into the recipe with how you do red beans and rice from the New Orleans genre. Some people like to cook the rice separately. Some people cook it together. Some people like to use big chunks of sausage. Some people like to go vegetarian. There's all sorts of different twists and turns, and I'm going to show you those here in a second. But I got to let these soak overnight, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Right now, I'm going to go buy some rice. So there's a couple things that are kind of option plays when you're making red beans and rice, but there are a couple things that you really have to do if you want to call it classic New Orleans red beans and rice. One of them is that you got to cook with a roux, and I'm going to show you that here in a little bit. But the other thing is that you've got to get the vegetable trilogy right. It's the Holy Trinity, they call it down there in Cajun Creole cuisine, and the vegetables are green pepper, onions, and celery. And I'm going to cut all of these into nice big fat chunks because I kind of like to feature the vegetables, if you will. I'm also going to throw in a few garlic cloves, quite a good bit of garlic cloves, and a little bit of red chili for heat. Some of the other things that are option plays, I talked earlier that you could make this vegetarian. If you don't have andouille sausage, I don't have any andouille sausage today. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use another little trick. I'm going to use a little bit of chipotle chili in there. It's going to add that little bit of smokiness in there. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, wait a minute, you can't call it red beans and rice if you don't have andouille sausage in there. Well, you know what? I'm going to call it red beans and rice inspired if you want to go that route. But basically, I leave the vegetables here in nice big fat chunks because vegetables are delicious. And I got some oil over there in my trusty old bean pot. It looks dirty. It's not dirty. It's just discolored because of all the beans that I've cooked in it. But I'm going to start here with some onion and celery in that hot oil. Just going to sweat them down a little bit. Grab my scoop here. Pretty high heat to start, if I can get it going here. And go those peppers. Here we go. Set them down. A little bit of color is okay in there. And again, I'm leaving these in nice, big, fat chunks because that's how I like it. My beans soaked up nicely. They're in the background cooking. All I'm doing with the beans at this point is 30 minutes of boiling in salted water. Nothing else. I'm going to let them cook. They aren't going to be done at 30 minutes. They're going to need some more cooking time, but I like to finish the beans in the mix here. So just start them cooking in that salted water. And you're going to drain out that bean cooking water when you move them into here. Just going. A lot of veg, but that's how I like it. I don't need to go crazy on this garlic. I'm just going to nice big fat chops because it's going to get a reasonably long amount of stewing time, if you will, to really soften down. Get all of that garlic in there. Yes, you can crush it if you wanted to, but just not that necessary. Get my one lowly Thai chili in there. That's all I could get today was Thai chili. You could use jalapenos or anchos or any kind of heat level you wanted, to be honest with you, but I just wanted that little extra kick in there. All right, give me a little time to sweat these down. Okay, those veg have sweated down and colored up just a little bit. We're in good shape. I've got a can of tomatoes with their juice over here. So I'm going to use a lot of the juice, if I can find the right way to strain. That's probably a cup and a half of juice, and a good scoop or two of the tomatoes themselves. The rest of that's going to turn into salsa later tonight, I think. And now here is one of my little cheats when I don't have a smoked sausage. I'm going to use some of this chipotle chili sauce. I got a nose full of it there. So I got 2 good spoonfuls of the sauce, and I'm going to go ahead and put in one of the chilies, but I need to chop it down, mince it down nice and fine. Oh yeah, that's good. Nice and smoky. Scoop all that up. That's going to be pure flavor in there. And I'm going to need some extra water in there. But instead of plain water, I'm going to use some of the cooking water from the beans that I've cooked in the background there. About a cup and a half, let's call that 2 cups more worth of liquid there. And again, because I don't have any andouille sausage, I do, however, have a nice smoked ham bone, one of those beautiful hams we get over in Quebec. Smoked toupee hams, they call them. I think I'm going to need just a little bit more plain water in there. Bring this liquid level up enough to handle the addition of the beans. So here are those beans again. I cooked them only for about 30 minutes. And they probably still got a good 15-20 minutes worth of, 15 or 20 minutes should get them to just about the right tenderness. I'm not going to salt it yet because I don't know how much salt I've got in there coming off the ham, and obviously there was a little bit in the beans when I cooked them. So not going to mess with that just yet, but I do want to get a little bit of paprika in there. Paprika is not just for color. There is good flavor if you are buying nice, fresh paprika. I'm going to call that a good tablespoon. Let's call it 2 tablespoons worth of paprika in there. Get that stirred in. Don't need any other pepper. A lot of times you see black pepper in there or garlic, something like that, but I've got that fresh chili and I've got the fresh garlic, so there is no reason to add more in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this over to my stove to simmer because I've got to show you how to make the roux that we're going to use to thicken this. So making a roux is dead simple. It's basically just fat and flour mixed together in equal portions. And then cook for a little bit of time. That cooking is the important part. Now, a lot of times you're going to see roux made with butter and flour. That's very, very classic. You can see that most of the time, actually. But for red beans and rice, I actually don't really care for the butter in there. It starts to taste like butter chicken at that point. So I use oil. Vegetable oil will work perfectly well, any kind of vegetable oil you've got. Some people will go crazy and use bacon drippings. That's very delicious too, but again, it adds a flavor that I'm not really looking for in red beans and rice. So all I've got over here is about a 1/4 cup of oil, and I brought it up to temperature, but now I'm going to really knock my temperature down to the lowest possible setting because I don't want this flour to burn. And I'm going to put in an equal volume of flour, so about a 1/4 cup. That's right about there. And now we have to cook it. And that cooking is critical. New Orleans and Cajun Creole cuisine, Southern Louisiana cuisine in general, has really taken roux to an art form. So you look at that and you think, well, you know, that's kind of roux, and I guess technically it is, but now we have to cook it until we get to the right stage. And there's every kind of color from peanut butter all the way down to chocolate. And I want this to be like a light peanut butter color, but you gotta cook it over low heat, otherwise it will get away from you in a heartbeat. And you notice also it's not quite as thick as some roux you might have seen in other circumstances, because basically it's just a lot easier to stir at this consistency and keep it from scorching and burning. May add just a tiny little bit more. You'll get, after you've done it a couple times, you'll get to feel the right thickness. There we go. It's just leaving little tiny bits of texture in the pan when I stir it. We'll go up just one more notch very carefully. And notice I have not stopped stirring. So I'm going to keep doing this until we get to a peanut butter color. I'll edit out the boring parts here. You might be saying to yourself, hey, that looks like a whole lot of roux for that size pot of beans you got there. But remember that the longer you cook a roux, the less thickening power it has. So you're going to use more than you would in, say, a Mornay sauce or something along those lines. But you can see we're starting to get some color on it. Give me a couple more minutes. Okay, we're almost there. As you can see, we've gotten a whole lot more color on it. I went up on my temperature just a notch or two, but I could have just taken a little bit more time, a little bit more patience, and left it down on low. But be careful if you knock up that temperature. And I have not stopped moving this pan, and I'm getting into all the corners with my whisk here, but we're pretty much done. That is a pretty decent color peanut butter roux. I hope you can see that. And you can absolutely smell it. That is roux ready to go. Okay, I've got my bean pot back in front of you. I had it over on the stovetop just to bring it up to temperature, and I've got it at a nice low boil, just barely ticking over. And that means I'm going to need at least another 30 minutes, probably more like 45 minutes or an hour. But what I'm looking at is the actual texture of the beans themselves. I'm feeling them, tasting them. When those get to where I want, that's when I will bring the roux into the party and use the roux to thicken up the final dish. That gives me plenty of time to go make some rice. I've got a fancy schmancy Japanese rice cooker that I've had since the late 90s, which is a real time saver. But you could absolutely just make some plain old long grain rice in a regular pot. There is a little controversy when it comes to the rice, though. Some people in New Orleans will say you've got to cook the rice in the red beans and rice the whole time. I kind of think it comes up a little bit muddy, mushy, sort of stodgy when you do that. But hey, to each their own. Some people will add the rice towards the very end, like in the last 5 or 10 minutes of cooking the beans. That's fine too. Personally, I'm a rice on the side kind of guy with lots of sauce, just perfectly thickened with that roux. So however you choose to do your rice is your business. No wrong answers there. Give these a few more minutes to simmer, and I'll show you what they look like towards the end when we move that roux into the party. Okay, we've been simmering away for however long my clock says I've been simmering away over there. Still a little bit of time to go, but the beans are almost there. And as you can see, I haven't cooked it into complete mush. There's still defined pieces of the vegetables in there. I think that's the way to go rather than turn it into that nasty stodge. But critically, I do want to taste and see where I'm at for salt. Yeah, it needs just a little bit, but not a lot. There's definitely some in there. So I'm going to go with maybe another half teaspoon in there. See where we're going to end up. I also know that I'm going to serve this with heaping volumes of my Curious Orange. This is my own kind of homemade version of Tabasco, not nearly aged or as artisan as authentic Tabasco from Avery Island, but it gets the job done, and I know that there's salt and vinegar both in there, so I don't want to go nuts on the salt. Remember always to think in terms of your final version on the plate when you're adding seasonings. Yeah, I think we're just about there. I'm going to give it just a few more minutes, but it is almost time to put that roux in and thicken it up right at the end. Okay, so my weapons of choice here for getting that roux mixed in, I do want to go ahead and get that ham bone out that's done its job. If you want to pick the last little bits of meat off of it, you certainly can. I'll probably do that off camera here, but get this out of the way. Well, I'll go ahead and take that piece off and that piece off. Don't let anything go to waste in my house, that's for sure. Get this out of the way. Okay, as you can see, we definitely got some thickening to do. It's as thin as a soup here, but you have got to get this flavor of the roux in there. And I highly encourage you to take a little taste there and just taste it. You'll, oh man, that's so good when you get it right. You'll see that it's really adding something. It's not just thickening. It's truly a flavor that is required to make it the right way. And I'm probably going to use just about all of this. Getting it stirred back up here after it's separated a little bit from sitting out. But we've got, that's a 1/4 cup. And this is, you know, we've probably got a good 1/2 cup worth in there. And get my whisk going here. And it won't thicken up quite as fast as an uncooked or a lightly cooked roux, but it will definitely thicken up noticeably. Yeah, so you can already see what it's doing there. That is just absolutely perfect. Knock my heat all the way down. Let me go get something to plate this up on. Okay, I'm ready to plate this monster up. Gonna get some of this rice. This is just plain old long grain rice. If you're having a problem with the grains not separating the way you want, try putting a couple tablespoons of oil into the rice while it's cooking. That seems to help a little bit. And also try a bunch of different brands of rice. This is not expensive rice that I'm using here, but I had kind of an epiphany when I found it because it was better than all the other long grain rices that I had tried to date. This is, I'll tell you where it came from. It's from the dollar store. It's $2.50 for 2 kilos worth of rice. And surprise, surprise, it's one of the nicest, easiest to cook rices I've ever found. So basically, price is not going to tell you better rice from worse rice. Go try a couple different brands in your neighborhood until you get the one that you want. But you can see we've got just, at least for me, just the right amount of thickness. If you want it a little thicker, you can add a little more roux or cook it a little longer. But that is red beans the way I like it, with lots of sauce to kind of drip through all of that rice. And it will taste very much like my old college nights in New Orleans. Like I say, you can't have red beans and rice without a good dose of Tabasco or similar. So there you go. That is my red beans and rice, almost New Orleans style. If I could find some andouille, I could make it really genuine, but this will do until I get back down south. So I do appreciate you guys liking and thumbs up and facey, tweety, snappy booking and all that other crazy social media stuff. Tell your friends I'm out here doing this. If you have the 30 seconds extra to watch the ad that runs after this, that throws a few pennies in my pocket, and I truly appreciate it because that's what lets me keep doing this for you. And as always, if you haven't, please do hit that subscribe button because the subscriber count is all that much more important to us YouTubers. Until next time, I'm Mr. Spork. These are Mr. Spork's hands, and it is red beans and rice time up here in the north. Cheers.